Here we go. I'm in trouble with these two. I can already tell from the green room. Oh my gosh, the technology gremlins I was dealing with, and then these two showed up. All right, all right. Without any further ado, let's introduce this guest panel. One of the smartest moves you can make as an author or speaker is to surround yourself with others who are walking a similar path. Whether you're planning a book, growing your platform, or refining your message, there's a real value in connecting with people who get it and who are willing to share what's working for them. That's exactly what you'll find at the Biz Book Pub Hub. Join us for our free virtual networking events where entrepreneurial authors and speakers come together to swap strategies, celebrate wins, and build meaningful connections. Check it all out at bizbookpubhub.com and get plugged into a community that knows how to turn ideas into impact. And now let's hear from today's panel. With me, I have Chris Johnson. Dr. Chris Johnson wrote The Leadership Pause: Sharpen Your Attention, Deepen Your Presence, and Navigate the Future. A thoughtful guide that helps leaders slow down, focus their attention, and reconnect with their purpose in order to lead more effectively and sustainably. We also have with us today Vera Milan Gervais, who wrote The Words We Wear: How to Show Up with Confidence and Create Your Best Life, a powerful exploration of how the words we use shape our self-image, communication, and confidence, designed to help readers show up with clarity and authenticity. Please join me in welcoming Chris and Vera. Welcome, Chris. We're going to jump right in with you. I always like to kick things off by asking, who did you have in mind as a reader when you were writing your book?
It's a tricky question, I have to say, because I wrote the book in some ways because I needed to read it. So the people that I'm interested that I wrote the book for are really leaders who are on the growing edge of their own development. And what I mean by that is they've either run up against a snag, they're aware at some point in their life they need a little bit more to be more effective and have greater impact. And they're really keen on, there's something about attention that I need to pay attention to that I'm not. They're super busy, super potentially overwhelmed, and also want to do really good work in the world, but are kind of stuck. So that's really the audience that I'm speaking to. Although my mother would say anybody could read this, but that is from my mother. So it's really for that audience, which includes entrepreneurs, business people, nonprofits.
Is there a particular subset of all of those people that you have been working with and they're passing the book along? Like sometimes a good resource like this gets a little buzz. Is there a certain circle of people that are like passing it around and talking about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I've been really actively involved in conscious capitalism for the last dozen years. And so a lot of folks in that space that I've worked with, I'm here in Chicago. And so there are a number of folks that I've intimately known or worked with in some capacity who are committed to businesses living on purpose and doing good in the world. So those folks. And then there's another group, mostly women, but a lot of them in the nonprofit space, who right now, today, in January of 2026, are feeling a lot of stress for all the reasons you might imagine in terms of finances, people development, how to do their work in the world. So that is another group.
Excellent. Vera, same questions to you about, who was the intended reader when you were writing your book?
I wrote my book for women specifically. I ran businesses for years, worked in major pharmaceutical company industries, and noticed that there were so many women who were holding back, not living up to their potential, whether it was lack of confidence, lack of feeling there was permission, lack of feeling it was acceptable. And so when I got to that point where I thought, this isn't fair, I mean, there's so much talent going unused, I wrote similar to Chris. I wrote because this is what I wanted to hear. This is what I wanted to share. And so I wrote the book for that reason.
It is true that for a lot of us, the book we wrote is the book we wish we'd had access to at some point in our journey.
Yeah.
It's so kind of us to like create a map so people can get there faster and avoid some of the twists and turns. Is this your first book, Vera, or have you other books out there?
This is my first solo book. I have contributed to a couple of other books. This is my first solo book. Although I've been a writer for 30 years, I actually used to get paid for writing. So I guess it was natural that sooner or later I would want to write for myself.
Love that. Was being a contributing author helpful in the on-ramp to identifying as an author and, thinking about writing your own book? Like, how do the two like work together? Because I know a lot of people who are a little like, I don't know if I'm gonna write my own book. Oh, write a chapter, and like they get kind of pulled into that, and then maybe they realize I could write this. I could do my own thing.
That's a really good segue to my book, Robbie, because in fact, one of the things, as I said, I was a writer for decades, but I never identified as a real writer because I was a commercial writer, right? I was a medical writer for decades, medical and marketing. And so by writing a chapter in the book, I actually wore the word writer and author and stepped into that identity as a writer and an author. And that allowed me to just feel much more comfortable when I sat down to write my own book, that yes, this is who I am and this is what I can do, because it is an identity. And like so many other things in our lives, the words we use when we talk about ourselves creates the identity that allows us to take the actions to do what it is we need to do.
I think that's the best possible outcome of one of those collaborative books, because they don't always do the results that they're promised. They don't make you famous,
No.
but they can help you start to identify as a person who writes books. Then that could lead to a change in how you think of yourself and the way you can share your knowledge with the world. Chris, when you were working on your book, were you surrounded by other authors? Are you part of an author community? Did you know people who were doing this? Like, how did you get the idea that this was something you wanted to do?
I probably got the idea when I was about 10 or 11 that, oh, someday, that kind of thing. But when I finally got to sitting down, it wasn't because I did have one friend who had written a book that really spoke to me and had a course that she developed. And so I was really encouraged by her. I have another friend who's a poet, so very different kind of book. So I was with them, but I actually had to seek out other writers. And currently I'm in a writers group where we review each other's work, give each other feedback. That's super helpful. But early on, I wish I had had more of the community that you're developing and that I'm a part of now. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard when you're first getting started if you don't know people who have been on this path. I mean, this is kind of what we're saying about creating these books to begin with. It's, you don't know what's around the corner, and you don't even know what to wish for. What surprised you most about what was possible once you had the book versus what you thought was going to happen as you were working on the book?
Are you asking me in particular? Say it again. What surprised me the most?
Yeah, I mean, there's the difference between like when the idea of what is possible and the goals you had, the wins you were hoping for when you were getting started writing a book, and what changed as you actually had a book. Like, is there anything surprising or anything that changed about like the metrics that mattered to you as far as success, or the doors that opens that you could never have foreseen? Just wildest dreams kind of moments.
So I think my wildest dreams are still coming toward me. I'm receiving them in the future, but I think what was the biggest surprise, and I didn't realize, I did not anticipate how big of a surprise I would experience in myself, my body, was what Vera spoke to, which is this idea of, oh, an expanding part of my identity is I am yet now an author. I'm a writer and an author. And that internally, regardless of how externally, but internally, it really shifted. My confidence increased. And I realized and kind of validated, like, no, I really do have something to say that's worth saying to a particular group of people who will benefit from it. Because I'm an avid reader. You guys might be as well, but I usually have 3 or 4 going at the same time. I read a couple hundred books a year. And given that that's the case, I know that there are slices of people out there who have something that I have something to share with them that will be valuable. So that was more of a surprise than I anticipated. And it's continued to open doors for other kinds of work. I do a lot of executive coaching, particularly with C-suite folks, many of whom are in the conscious or soon to be conscious kind of business space. So that's going on. And right now, today, a lot more community intention. So part of my own goal for 2026 is to expand community, both for myself that I'm participating, also in a leadership role in the community where I live, because I think the times require that. So it's like, how do we step out into that? And so there's something in this as well.
both of you are talking about this identity of being a writer and author, and I still joke that I don't identify as a writer because, like that's a whole
Really?
thing.
Really?
Yeah, book four, and I'm like writer, but I do identify as an author. Just writing is not my first medium for communication. Like
Mhm.
I don't go that direction. But I feel so much more confident with writing than I did started back in 2017, 2016, 2015 when I first started working on book one. And the thing I realized is that I have kids that were born in 15 and 17, and their entire conscious lives, I've been an author. And I keep, they're like, when's your next book? Like what a different world they'll grow up in where the expectation is, yes, I'm an author. Like they
Yeah.
just know that. And that's that thinking about from their perspective also is like kind of gives me some feels because I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm showing them what it's like to build a business, to put out to put out a message, to build a community and all of that. So can't wait to have them be a little older and really understand it all. Vera,
Mhm.
I'm curious, your expectations of what the collaborative project was going to be for you, your expectations of the book, the solo project was going to be for you. What what was level setting? Like, what can you share with others who are going to take those similar paths around what to put it, what efforts to put in so they can get something out, and like, did it change when it was your project? Like suddenly you're in charge of the whole thing. I imagine there are some shifts there. So just what was that like for you? Did you bring other people in? Like how did you sort of get going from being the collaborator who submitted a chapter to being an author who took care of the whole project?
Wow, that's quite a question that you're asking, Robbie. I think first of all, the collaborative process I was invited to, which was very, very welcoming, very encouraging. I would suggest to most people who are being invited that yes, it's worth it, because one of the things it does is it teaches you the publishing process, it teaches you the editing process, it teaches you the importance of editing, the timelines that can get really crunchy on things. But not to anticipate that they're going to give you the level of editing, for instance, that might be what you would expect. They are processes that are meant to get a book out, in many cases, more so than to help you as an individual. So I think you have to look after yourself as an individual, but take it as an experience and a learning journey. And that for me, it definitely was. So I'm very glad both books that I contributed in, I learned something prior to doing my own book, which was probably very good because I wrote my book with not too much difficulty. I always tease my husband that I wrote my book when he was golfing. I edited my book when he was golfing. We went to Hawaii on vacation, and I said, I need to edit my book. You need to golf every day. He goes, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Really a tragedy.
You were turning the whole golf widow story on its head.
Yes,
but I
totally.
needed that length of time without any interruption. And I knew that if he was around, there'd be interruptions because there just naturally would be. So when he was golfing, I could write or I could edit, and I gave myself permission not to do housework or anything during those points in time, right?
Smart, Vera, smart.
Yeah, because we do that. We say, oh, well, I should do this and this and this. And I'm going, no, if he's golfing, I can do this for me. So that's when I wrote my book. And as I said, that's when I edited my book. The twist for me, and the reason that I'm kind of glad that I did the other two experiences, is that as I was getting ready to publish my book, my publisher went bankrupt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
so, no. Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think that had I not gone through the other two experiences and known there were glitches, that I probably would have said, okay, I'm not meant to do this. This isn't meant to happen. This is the universe telling me, blah, 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 blah. Because it's a bit of a stunning shock when that happens and they take your money and they run away and say, sorry. So yeah, that was a hard blow. And then I had to basically start the process all over again, looking for a publisher.
Oh my God, I feel like I need a cleansing breath there.
No, really, exactly. Like a pause.
I know, my whole my heart just like leaped a little bit. I love though that you kept going. There's something really to take from that. Like you already had written everything, and I mean, there are phases of this process, and when we're starting very first time, we really can't see what's coming. And I think what you said about, being part of the collaborative projects, those two projects, it gave you a sense of all the timing, the crunch, the chaos, the organized, hopefully chaos of it all. Writing a book is not easy, but it's also not the hardest part of the process.
No.
And when you're working on the book part, and you're just writing, like, you're so consumed, and then you have to go through the editing process, and then you're like, oh gosh, that's hard. And then you get through that, and you have to find a formatter and a cover designer, and you have to figure out how to get this thing published. And then all the stuff I focus on around a launch, where I'm like, slow down, don't just rush to publish your book, like have a launch plan in place. And people are like, oh, what? I just want to be done with this book. I'm like, really? Is that why you wrote your book, just to be done with it? So to have something catastrophic throw you off course and for you to get back on course again, I just think anyone listening who's maybe experiencing this right now or might in the future, I just want you all to know, like, it is possible to get the support and get back on. And that includes people who accidentally give their money to predatory people in this industry, because that also happens, where like you're like, I wrote a check and then the money is gone, and then it's like, how do you start over again? And this is why you want to hang out with a community of authors. I mentioned at the top of this, I think having other people who give you their suggestions of who to go to or who not to go to, oh my gosh, so important. I want to come over to Chris and talk about reviews, because you and I didn't work together directly on this part, but we got a chance to meet and do some work together after your book existed, and you'd already done a really good, strong, out of the gate effort. But I'm looking, and since then I'm like, wow, you have a lot of reviews. Like they have jumped up, and you're continuing to get the reviews. So here's the stats that I have for you. You have 85 global ratings. That's the 1 through 5 stars. So congratulations on that. And 75 of those 85 people wrote a review, which is awesome. 75 people took the time to go to your Amazon page and write a review. And I
love them. It's amazing.
I know every single one of them. And some of them are like many paragraphs long. And I'm just counting, like there's a bunch in December, and there's a bunch in November. So you're not just getting them once, you're getting them ongoing, which is important. So how did you approach the idea of getting reviews early on? Did anything change about your process? It is not easy. It is not easy to get people to write you a review and get it up on Amazon. So what are some of the things that work for you?
That's a great question. It's kind of multi-layered, I suppose. But on the front side, before I met you, Robbie, I was working with an editor and a hybrid publisher who published my book. And basically, I got some really good advice about a process to create the launch team, and then to create a series of emails to make the request for reviews. You have a more extensive approach to that, which is why I'm glad we're hanging over here. But on the front side, it wasn't too bad. I got some. And then what I've done since then is I continue to ask for reviews, although I could probably get a little bit better at that. But every time I have an opportunity to speak or to do a presentation or to run a workshop, I'll talk about that, ask for a review, make sure they have the information. And then I've participated in your Kindle flash sales, which helps, because I think it's all about helping each other. For those of us who are writers and authors, it's how do we support one another to get the good news of what our good work is in the world. So like you had a flash sale this fall, and I participated, and I agreed to do some reviews for folks. Some people wrote nice reviews for me. It's great. And I think that's really part of it. So every time I'm out there talking, though, and there's an opening, or I'll create an opening to ask, I'll ask, because it's really important to do. And the worst I could say is no. And then just a plug here, because you and I are going to be working together to publish a workbook that goes along with my book. It's a companion practice book. And so I'll be doing the process all over again, which feels a little daunting, but I'm glad I'm with good people. Robbie, thank you.
And I'm excited to be supporting you on it. So a couple takeaways I hear from this message is set the intention to collect reviews, have a strong process out of the gate. So you did, in the sense of you were guided, not just, I mean, I've heard publishers tell authors all the time, you should get reviews, without any hint for how to do that. So at least you got build a launch team. You have to send multiple emails, not just one. And then I have a really robust, like you said, I have a really detailed process around that. That's to try to increase the effectiveness, because it's, again, not easy to do. But I think anytime someone says something complimentary in person or writes you an email, it's just like having that instinct to say, oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I love hearing that from readers. Would you mind sharing that as an Amazon review? And then either giving them the text back with the link or just facilitating that happening. The Kindle Flash Sale, what I love about this, it gives you a reason to pay attention to your book.
Totally.
You gotta focus on it. Maybe not every single day it's going to be a priority. I get that. You have other things going on. But in the 2 weeks leading up to the flash sale, your books are discounted to 99 cents. And I'm always telling authors, that's your time to go wake up your network and get a few more reviews in. And then I do invite authors to say, hey, buy 5 books that resonate with you if you want, and then commit to writing a review in the next 6 weeks after the campaign. Not an author swap, because those are actually against rules, but just sort of a, obviously as a content creator, you know what it's like to get reviews and how great they feel. Maybe pass that along. Vera, what's your experience with the Kindle Flash Sale been? I mean, this has been something that we've done now a little bit. So, you had an idea of what you thought it was going to be, then what it's become. It keeps evolving as we grow it. What's your take on being this in a marketing plan for your book?
It was interesting because it was probably the first marketing effort I did for my book. Because when, as I said, my publisher went bankrupt, I had intentionally planned to launch my book at Archangel, actually in September 2023. So they were going to distribute my book free to the audience there. And when this all blew up in my face, I did not have a book. So I spent the 3 months that I was supposed to be working on my marketing plan trying to find another publisher so that I could get published. And we did a special edition of the book in advance of my publication date for this event. So when I did the Kindle Flash Sale, it was actually the first time that I actually focused on marketing my book, which sounded really strange when my book had been out for 2 years. But it was kind of it was kind of one of those things that happened. And I mean, the book did well because it's mostly been distributed through events and workshops.
Right.
But so this was completely different. And it was for me the first time that I've actually, to your point, Chris, asked for reviews before I just let it happen as it happened. And it kind of taught me a little bit more about the importance of reviews. So that was a positive aspect.
Yeah, and you're at 24 written reviews, and if you keep, it's about steady progress, right? You get 5 or 7 every few months, and you just keep doing that, right? You inch your way closer to that 50 mark, and then you inch your way toward the 100 mark, but the quantity reviews, the quality, meaning closer to 5 stars, the recency of reviews, and the percentage of verified purchase reviews all have an impact on how your book is discovered in the Amazon search results page. So. And also people buying books check reviews. we just do that.
I do. I check them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you flip through them, and sometimes a 3-star review, or even lower, can be the reason you buy a book. I always joke about this. My wife is an avid reader. Chris, I really have to get your Goodreads. Hope you track your books, because I want to know what you've been reading. But my wife is 200 plus books. I'm 100 plus books a year. And she gives me some great books. But if she finds a book that's got a 1-star review because it's got too much smut, she's like, "Ooh, what's the book?" Right? Because for one person, it's not their jam, and for someone else, it's like, I have books where people have written. It's like a book about Zoom and how to use Zoom effectively. And because I'm inclusive and I want to make sure that this platform is useful for everyone, people were calling it wokeness.
Oh my gosh.
And I have a 1-star review where they said wokeness at its best. And I know anyone clicking on that 1-star review now is like, wait, it's a book about how to use Zoom effectively. I'm curious. I want to know more about this book. Right? I'm like, well, thank you very much for whoever wrote that anonymously. I'm now selling more books because of you. So I think that, people feel good about being part of that process, and the flash sale is part of this experience, which is something we do 3 times a year. So go to kindleflashsale.com, happens, and you'll go find out all the details. Maybe you'll be lucky and you'll land on it right when we're actually doing one of our flash sales. I am curious about marketing strategies. It sounds like for Chris, your thing has also been similar to Vera, like it's attached to your speaking. Is that where most of your bulk sales are coming from?
Yeah, speaking in workshops. So kind of speaking writ large and then specializing in the workshops. So that's where most of them are coming. And one of your questions was about the best strategy. So I just find that having a couple of different packages that include books along with here's a speaking opportunity or here's a workshop thing, that seems to work really well. That seems to work really well.
That's great. I used to do something where I if you paid my top fee, I had a book about networking at conferences. So that did that, pre-COVID. I think I gave them like 50 books, which is enough books that they have to do something with them. It's not just like a raffle. It can't be like,
they got to do something.
Yeah, it's not like 3 copies, but not enough for everyone in the room. So if there was 150 people in the room, I'd say, well, I'd give you a 20% discount if you buy 50 or more additional books. And then they would go and do that. And then I would, so anything like that, sometimes you can play around with those numbers. Vera, how are you kind of incorporating the book in the business side of what you're doing?
Yeah, for me, it's like Chris, I like the workshops. I like the interactive component, which is very much what lends to my book because I'm talking about identity and words. And with women, that's really easy to do that face to face. So, but I do similar, Robbie. I offer the books as part of my package, whether it's the workshop package or a speaking package. I do offer a discount if people want to buy it for everybody. One of my best events, actually, I talked the lady into buying the book for her team prior to the workshop, and they read the book. And this was one of the greatest things ever. I walked into the room and they had quotes from my book all over the wall.
Oh, cool.
It was like powerful because it was like, what were your takeaways? And one of the ladies had taken these and put their favorite quotes from the book all over the wall. Wow. And it was like, this is why I'm doing this. This is perfect, and so I wish I could convince more people to do that, but hard to do when you've got like 100 people coming to an event. It's a little bit more difficult, but.
Well, one of the tips I've learned over time is that there's often a second budget separate from speaking fees to buy books. And also sometimes organizations will build in buying your book as one of the sponsorship benefits. And then you slap a sticker on the book saying it's compliments of that sponsor. And some will even let you arrange for the sponsor if it's a not one of their core sponsors, but it lets them have a introductory relationship with someone who may be interested in being part of that event ongoing, and you sort of identify it for them, and you're like, I think this could be a good fit. Why don't we start this year with them just buying my books and me saying these are compliments of, and it's whether it's a sticker on the book or it's a card on the table or something, or announced from the stage, you're getting this book because of such and such, and you splash something on the screen. I mean, they're always looking for new sponsors, and you're like, well, I'll land one for you and I'll make the intro. So yeah, I love that experience, Vera. I've the idea of walking in and people already knowing and loving your content and like being on the edge of their seat to hear more from you and having really detailed, questions about what they're doing and how they're doing it with your book. That is the reason we're doing this. I love that for you. I think,
and having the words around the room. I mean, your book is about words. That had to be just amazing.
Oh, it was great. It's great.
When people are reading your book, Vera, is there a clear pathway from the book to your business, like downloadable content, your contact info, like a clear, if you love this, like here's how you find me and what we can do next is this thing?
Yeah, my book there's illustrations in my book, and there's also a number of questions. So my book includes a link to my website for some of the hidden bonuses, if you will. And I'm actually currently working on a workbook to go along with it as well, because the interactive exercises I do in my workshops are so popular that I'm just going to pull them all together into a workbook and get that together. But yeah, my business per se, I don't do consulting or coaching any longer. My focus is mostly just on reach and getting the message out. So for me, it's the referrals. I would say that one of the benefits of the book and the speaking is that 90% of the work I get is based on referrals. And that's a huge affirmation that what I'm doing is what I'm meant to be doing. It's really solid.
That's amazing. And I have a feeling you and Chris are going to talk after about creating a workbook.
Happen.
Chris is like, oh yeah, I just did a workbook for my book. I mean, it's fantastic. Whether you do a formal workbook or you have a file that is actually uploaded to Amazon, or you create a really detailed PDF that is something people can download as a bonus. I often pull information from the books that I've written into PDF versions, because even when people buy the paperback, they may not want to write in it. I also don't want to have lots of blank spaces. It's not meant to be a workbook, right? It's a book. So having something people can share with colleagues. Chris, I know you work a lot with teams. So do you have something that guides the reader to share it with their team? Like, is there a discussion guide or a way to incorporate it into the work that they're doing? Reflection questions. Like, how do you help people take the idea from I'm reading a book to I'm sharing a book? Because I think that's a shift in identity there.
Yeah, I didn't set that up with the original book, The Leadership Pause, with the workbook and some advice from a really smart business book coach. I will add that to the workbook in terms of, because what I had been doing was simply creating some PDFs of sections, but I'll be more intentional this time in the workbook about this is how you can use this with your team. So that'll be happening in the next couple months.
And even if you don't have it in the original book, creating a discussion guide is one of the bonuses that they get access to. And then especially messaging your prospects and your people and saying, when you buy this book, it includes a discussion, it includes a 4-week weekly check-in exercise or something like that. I just think
Nice.
it's always funny to me that when you're speaking on stage, people don't realize that you're also a coach. And when you're writing a book, they don't realize you're also a speaker. Like, you have to really spell it out for people that you can help them in multiple ways. Like, there's lots of ways that I can get this information to you. And how do they use this tool? Because if they realize, oh, I can just buy it for 12 people and then not just like the money's wasted and no one opened it, but I'm going to tell them next week we're looking at section 1 and be prepared to answer the reflection question or whatever it is, right? Like, I love that. Chris, what would you like to add?
Well, I'm just going to riff off of what you're saying, because having gone even with a hybrid publisher for the Leadership Pause, they were great in so many ways, but they weren't juicy like you are, Robbie. And so this extra little bit of juice, like, hey, let's look at the 85 ways we could reposition and actually be the invitation. So it's not just here's a book to read. It's like, no, the author, the work is an invitation to something greater. And it has like all these different ways it could show up. I think that's part of your secret sauce and part of the juice that you bring, and part of why I'm on this call with you now in panel, because I just love the work that you're doing in the world. And I think it's really encouraging. And if that message gets out more, like in conversations like this, I think more people will become authors and not just sort of secretly writing aside. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And more of these authors will find their books being used. I mean,
absolutely. Right.
Yeah, because like the experience that Vera had was because people actually opened the book.
Right.
They actually read the book, which is very powerful. Because I occasionally have people quoting my latest book, Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews to Drive Revenue. They are like quoting my process back to me. And then I'm like, oh, great. You read the book? They're like, I was on your launch team. I'm like, yeah, I don't assume you read the book. They're like, I wrote your review. I'm like, yeah, and I still do not assume that you read my book. I love to hear that you read my book and that you internalized something and you are using the information. Like, that's wonderful. Like, I have no assumptions that was actually taking place. So I think, thank you for your kind words, Chris. I am a strategist first and foremost, and I don't publish books. I'm not a writing coach. I'm not a developmental editor. But I meet with people at the very beginning stages of the writing process when they're thinking about writing a book. I have a cohort called the Author ROI Lab. It's a small group program, meets over 8 weeks, a handful of times. There's some homework in between, including research calls with likely readers. So we're not just making things up with, ChatGPT as our guide. We're talking to human beings that are actually people we're writing the book for, and getting getting ideas of, well, is this the right book to write? And if so, what are the ROI outcomes that we can work towards, so that, whatever it is, a discussion guide, a guide for using this in a book club, like whatever it might be, ERGs can use this in this way, whatever it might be, it's built in and it leads back to the business in a really concrete way. And then they can go off and write the book, and I can guide them to people to do that if they need help. And then when they come back to launch their book with me, oh my God, they're in such a better place. It's hard always to get the outcomes you want, particularly if you're not naming them. And Vera, coming back to you, there's this question I love, which is like to share a success story by answering the prompt, because I'm an author. So because I'm an author, how would you answer that? Like, are there any moments that doors that have opened, or experiences you've been able to have?
Oh, interesting. I think because I'm an author, it did make it easier for me to become a speaker. As a matter of fact, it was probably a catalyst for me becoming a speaker, because I'm an introvert by nature, and the businesses that my husband and I ran for 3 decades, he's the person who was always up front. So I was always behind the scenes. But because I was an author and I had to be able to talk about my book, and I wanted to expand the reach of the message in the book, I had to become a speaker. So I took heroic public speaking, and I learned how to stand up on the stage and present my ideas. And now, interestingly enough, it's probably the part I love the most. I never ever thought I would enjoy being on a stage or in front of people, but I love it. And actually, for the introverts out there, speaking and being in a workshop facilitator is actually great, because you're in control of the situation. Like when you're sitting at a table with a bunch of strangers, you're not in control of the situation. So it's an introvert's biggest fear, right? But when you're in control of the messaging and delivering it, it's actually powerful and really confidence building.
I also love that when you're in the front of the room and you step off the stage, people come to you who actually want to have a one-on-one conversation with you. So for introverts, that is beautiful too, because you don't have to be pushy, raise your hand, break in at the right moments, take up airtime. No, like, you had a message, people gathered to hear it, and then the people who want to continue the conversation stay after to do so. And I'm part of the National Speakers Association, and there are a disproportionate number of introverts in that group. And you wouldn't, maybe on the outside, you wouldn't think that, but it absolutely is the case. And I think, I'm an extrovert with a bonus points, but I also think it's really helpful, like you said, to be thinking of the container of the space, being the one who's creating the environment, who's guiding the conversation. I mean, I think there's something really lovely about people who are thoughtful about that. I think introverts are particularly suited for that, because they know what can go wrong when it's not done well. And then, loud, brash extroverts like me take over. So
We also have a tendency to read body language and watch what's going on in the room as well too. And I think that's an advantage that comes not only from being an introvert, but the part of what we learn as authors is to your point, read the audience. What do they need? And I think all of that comes together to create better books and then better impact.
Yeah.
Chris, as we wrap up here, I always like to end asking each person the question: what advice would you give someone who's writing a book to help them grow their business?
Yeah. I would encourage them to pause and really reflect on why they want to write their book. Then I would encourage them to find others to run the book by, in terms of, is this a good idea? What do you all think? And really listen to the input, and not just stubbornly attached to the idea. And then do the work. Set up a regular schedule for writing, but make it workable for you, not like some merciless experience in college or something like that, but make it work for you so that you're in your best writing space. Mine's early morning. Mine's usually by hand first, and then I'll go to the computer. So figuring out kind of what the strategies are, then to connect with people who can actually do the mechanics of helping to not only edit, but then do the business of publishing. So really, like, lining up the people, not all at once, maybe, probably not, but being open to who's the next right person that I need to be in touch with, and then asking for those referrals. And that's actually how I came to know you, Robbie, is that Jennifer Fondreve recommended that I reach out to you. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for reminding me to give Jennifer a shout out. I forgot that was how you and I had known each other all this time. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that. I mean, it is true. Like, you make sure you're writing the right kind of book for the right reasons, get feedback, and then assume there will be others on this journey with you and that they'll show up when you need them by asking for the kind of support you need. Vera, what would you share as your advice for someone writing a book to grow their business?
Marry a golfer.
That's great. I love it.
Yep.
I think you need to give yourself permission to write, permission to believe that the story, the message is worthwhile. And then to your point, Chris, you do have to let go of some of your babies along the way. I know the first time I sent mine out to my editor, she came back and she said, "This is beautiful, but I can tell you've been a medical writer because you use nothing but science to support it. And women don't need science, we need stories." So I actually had to probably get rid of about 60% of my book and start over. But it was the right advice. And then I went out and spoke to what we were talking about earlier, the audience that I wanted to reach, the people that were going to be inspirational to that audience. And that made my book what it should be. So we do need to reach the audience. We do need to think about the audience, not just our own. I mean, we've said it, we write for ourselves, but we can't just write for ourselves. We have to take the learning that we have from ourselves and then write it to share it in a way that it helps others, not just in a way that it releases all of our stuff.
Yeah.
That's really powerful, because I think both of those things can be true at the same time, but you can't lean on one without having the other to have a good book that actually reaches people. Vera, how can people find you and follow your work?
Easiest way is my website, veragervais.com. So VeraGervais.com. Everything's on there, from my TEDx talk to my book to the workshops that I do.
Brilliant. We're going to have all the links, by the way, at bizbookpubhub.com. Chris, how about you? How can people find you and follow your work?
The two best ways, q4-consulting.com, our website. And you could also reach me at Dr. Chris at q4-consulting.com for my email. And I'm over on LinkedIn. I like to connect with people. And so check me out over there.
Brilliant. All the links will be in the show notes, bizbookpubhub.com, where you'll also find a curated directory of experts here to support you wherever you are on your author journey. We have free virtual networking events. You'll learn about the Kindle flash sales and more. There's so much good content there. So definitely check that all out. Friends, thank you so much for being here at the panel. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thanks, you, Robbie.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.